Hey everyone, this is Bernie Borges from Vengreso, and I am joined today by Joe McClung from FloodGate Medical. Joe, welcome.
Thank you, Bernie. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Hey, let's begin with an introduction to your company. Who is FloodGate Medical?
FloodGate Medical, we are a recruiter that specializes in everyone commercial for medical device. So any medical device or med tech company that need to find the best sales, marketing, national accounts, we work with those companies to find their best and top talent, and we're one of the top in our space.
Well, speaking of being one of the top in your space, as a recruiting firm, you guys recently were recognized by LinkedIn as being among the most socially engaged recruiting firms. So, Joe, that's a pretty cool accolade. What's that about?
Yeah, we were really pleased to get it. It really came from our fact is, we connect people as what we do for a living. So we were very intentional through the last year of making a lot of connections and making those connections formalized through LinkedIn and really reaching out and doing a lot of communication to beyond the group we knew. And I think that was a big part of winning that award.
So clearly, as a recruiting firm, you and your team are already very, very dialed into using LinkedIn as a way to connect with clients and prospective candidates and that kind of thing. So I know that recently you went through the Vengreso virtual social selling bootcamp, and you came into it already being, hey, ranked, what, number 9 by LinkedIn?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So Joe, when you came into the bootcamp, you were already, very, very, on top of your game. So first of all, why did you actually come into the bootcamp to begin with when you were already using LinkedIn so effectively?
Hey, you know what? I think there's a famous quote that every man is my superior in some way, and of that I will learn from him. And for me, a lot of people are superior to us, so there's a lot we can learn. And we did learn a ton in the boot camp. I mean, some of the foundations that you would assume that where we were, we would have nailed, like just, having our profiles set to actually not just be resumes for our teams, but to have impact. We weren't doing that. We weren't hitting that message correct. So we took that, put that arrow in our quiver. We've made some changes, up that game. How we reached out and how we actually engage. We've done a lot with content recently, but then utilizing that content, when you engage and nurture the clients is something we weren't using. We were putting it out there, not specifically targeting it. So we learned that as well. But there's a few other, arrows we put in the quiver. I mean, one of the great things I think is we've changed the way we're content and reaching out. I just had last week a client, which I call kind of a twofer, is a guy that was really looking for his next level. He's a high level employee looking for his next big thing because there was changes in management, but he's happy with where he is, enough right now. And he needed some talent, help where he was now. So we're going to, we got him in our network to hopefully, eventually place someday. We're also getting placements for him as well. So, I mean, sometimes that really works well.
Okay. So it sounds like you're taking your networking activities on LinkedIn to another level. Like you said, you really, modified your LinkedIn profiles from that resume to the buyer-centric profile that really, really resonates well with the buyer. What about prospecting? Did you pick up anything from the bootcamp when it comes to prospecting?
Yeah, we did. I mean, there were definitely some ways in how we actually use the data we have and the connections we already do have. We have a ton of connections, but being able to data mine that connection effectively, narrow it down, and then having some specific actions you can take was definitely helpful. I've got a long way to go, and I got to get a lot more disciplined in doing those activities. But, knowing what you don't know is half the battle.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Joe. That's exactly, we hear that very often. We hear from people who attend our boot camps and our private training programs kind of coming into it, they think they already knew a lot. And, I give you credit that you attended a public boot camp knowing that you could learn more. But what we hear often, Joe, is that people say on the other end of training, they say, I didn't know what I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And that's usually the biggest light bulb. So what's the takeaway you'd like to leave for the person watching this, who's already active on LinkedIn? What advice would you have for that person?
Well, I mean, I would say, hey, take the boot camp, get engaged with Vengreso. You're going to learn something, and they are absolutely focused in a space, and focused is effectiveness. No matter how good you are, you have your other business. And they're fully focused on making sure people make impact and know how to socially sell. And so I would take the time to do the boot camp and learn something.
Well, thanks, Joe. I also want to remind anybody who's watching this that in addition to our services like the boot camp, we also have a lot of free content that's available on our YouTube channel, our blog, our podcast. So invite people to just, consume our content. You can learn a lot just from our blog content, our podcast, and our other YouTube videos. So Joe McClung from FloodGate Medical, thank you so much for joining me here today on this Vengreso video.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it, Bernie.